The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Odor, please, odor. The Reels of Justice, Hell on Reels, is now in possession. Grudge, I'm the poison. Ryan Luis Rodriguez presiding. Will you all please dies for the horrible Grudge Rodriguez?
Okay.
That laugh gets more obnoxious every single time.
Not more.
Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice, Hell on Reels. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Cube, a 1997 horror sci-fi movie that follows a group of prisoners as they traverse a bizarre and deadly prison made of cubes. Hence the title.
Hey.
For those of you unfamiliar, shut up. For those of you unfamiliar with our spooky court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of the sin of being a bad movie. If so, it shall be cast for all eternity into the fiery pits of movie hell upon which this courthouse just so happens to be built.
I can't wait till we get to close that down.
You gotta end that with Wipeout, and then it'd be appropriate.
Wipeout!
There you go. Mr. Isaac Arthur, you are representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Your Honor, members of the jury, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, The Cube is not a movie. It is an unfinished math problem someone filmed by accident. It is very appropriate that the movie be bashed to hell, should it fail, as it certainly will, as it was originally set in hell, and many of the artifacts of the original plot, and a couple of rewrites, do short to make the movie even more confusing than it would normally be. It is as if the filmmakers built a beautiful maze and then forgot to include an exit sign marked plot resolution. The mystery of why the cube exists is never solved, but I suspect it's because explaining it would have required another bigger set. The film builds up this grand mystery about who made the cube, why they're there, and then just leaves us hanging. Even J.J. Abrams tended to offer at least some sort of resolution to his 10-card pileups of mystery boxes. Our goal today will be to prove that this film, while it has some good points, fundamentally deserves a place in hell.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Big Ben Haslar. Please present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Every so often, we are blessed with a film that is just unequivocally itself, and we should give deference to those. We've had many a conversation here on Reels about sequels, betwequels, sneakquels, and so on, with just a bit of tiredness in our tone, a yearning for a film that's new, different, and stands apart. Cube is one such film. It has a premise that nobody else has and can only exist as a film called Cube, made with a modest budget. Knows what it has to work with and works with it to the max as best they can by leaning hard onto the idea of Kafka-esque themes. And is a film I believe many filmmakers have looked to for inspiration, be it the brutal laser cutting that dices humans into cubes like in Resident Evil, the moving from one enclosed environment to the next as a metaphor for the absurd system in which we live, like in Snowpiercer, or the people waking up in a strange place being tested with moral dilemmas and brutal traps, like in the Saw franchise. All films which had better budgets and higher profile actors than this had, which makes it even more the impressive. It does so much with so little. And you know what? We've sent every film except for Wolfman to movie hell this season. Don't you think we ought to keep one out of the pit just to have some semblance of fairness in this court? I think.
No!
Thank you, Mr. Haslar. Mr. Arthur, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
First of all, inspiring other bad movies is not the mark of a good film. I know that inspired me others, including The
It's the
Soho.
mark of an infection.
And many other films that honestly probably deserve to be in movie hell just as much, if not more, than this film. But the nice thing about hell is there's a lot of it, much like the Cube. And so there's plenty of room for additional people. They're all things the movie does well. There's no doubt about that. The acting is pretty good, especially for a low-budget sci-fi horror movie. I think they said it was $350,000. Now, that was back in the old days. That's like $1 million now, but it did pretty good on that. It's actually an early role by my friend David Hewlett, who's been in a lot of sci-fi and is best known as Dr. Rodney McKay from Stargate Atlantis. So it's got Ezra Max from Star Trek. So they got good people in there in terms of actors. There is some overacting, but it is often forgivable, and the cast deserves credit for managing the film. Very nearly the entire film is set on a single cube-shaped room. That's not a lot of room to work with. So, yes, it's got some good points. The problem is, it's like Lost. If Lost took place entirely inside a shipping container and ended even less clearly. There's just not much reason for what they do. It ends on the ultimate big white fade-out. They don't tell us who built it, but judging by the interior design, I'd say IKEA. The film never conforms much. We do know Hewlett's character helped design the cube's exterior, and he speculates it was some massive government project that got built and kept running on inertia. No grand conspiracy. I love that line. I've remembered it for years. There's no grand conspiracy. We're not that important. Just bureaucratic momentum. I like it, but it's funny. It has some ring of truth. It's just too big. There needs to be a dose of realism to it. This structure, by any reckoning, is at least the size of a skyscraper and probably costs more to build. We're talking billions, if not tens of billions of dollars. It is also not something that could access...
Objection. What does the normal military project run, do you think?
Oh, geez. An aircraft carrier is less than $10 billion. This thing would cost more than the Burj Khalifa. So
Money well spent.
It had to be meticulously engineered. Thousands of designers, technicians, and contractors. When you look at something like an aircraft carrier, imagine trying to build something like that in secret. And they would have had to ask, this is the big one, you know what the aircraft carrier is for? Someone, especially designers, would have to have asked, what is this thing supposed to do? It's not a simple and small mechanism. It's one that would need maintenance, and that means we're assuming folks who go and recharge the laser array and figure out things like, why does this room spray acid on people?
The acid spray union is very powerful.
So, it is Kafkaesque, but I think it takes a little bit too far. It's not a prison, right? They say, what is the purpose of the thing? It's not a prison. It kills everyone inside within hours or days. Even if you dodge the traps, there's no food, no water, no toilets, which again requires maintenance. Someone has to mop that place up afterward.
They never get out.
So that, if nobody else is worried to ask a thing, someone's going, why is this place filled with burned humans and feces? It's one revision of the script.
Well, ICE got a budget upgrade, so, maybe it has something to do with that.
And originally it had food and water in some of the earlier script versions. So it's not a punishment or rehabilitation. It's just an over-engineered murder. You could hire a sadistic torturer and give them a much cheaper dungeon and still come in under budget. So yours is a test of intellect. The first rational assumption when you see all those numbers is they mark a Cartesian grid, right? 3 by 3 by 3 digits. Maybe 1,000 rooms on a side, more than 100 at the minimum. The upper range would make that structure 3 miles or 5 kilometers tall, high, and wide. There is no building that has even one of those dimensions, let alone all three simultaneously. It would have literally more room inside it than all of New York City combined. So, yeah, it's getting more expensive than an aircraft carrier. It would solve all of our housing problems. People just moved in there. And if you remove the death traps, which, to be fair, it's not more dangerous than some tenant housing in the city. But
you get a different neighbor every day. Isn't that kind of cool?
There's no reason why anyone, even a genius, is suddenly going to assume that prime numbers or prime powers are the reason why that would be the safe pathway, right? You've got a mystery box, a puzzle that you have to solve to survive, but it's a weird one. And it's an arbitrary leap of logic, right? So it's not so much of an IQ test as it kills off every candidate before they can finish the problem. And we can hand wave that. We'd say, oh, yeah, but that's the point. It's a mystery. Maybe it has no purpose. Sure, but that's not deep. That's lazy writing, especially since we know from earlier drafts it did have a purpose. At one point, it was literally set in hell, which they probably should have kept with. And another was a non-supernatural prison. We hear allusions that, the prisoners are all named after, the characters are all named after prisons, right? So that's left over in there. It's neat, it's cool, but it leaves all these artifacts of a script that are just weird. What we're left with isn't profound ambiguity. It's just leftover confusion from too many rewrites.
Mr. Haslar?
I'd like to respond to some of this. There were two things. I'll circle back to the acting. But as far as like what the cube means, it has been called Kafkaesque in that it's a metaphor for the pointless things humans are thrown into in order to serve a larger bureaucracy that in itself is overly complicated and ultimately itself is meaningless. As a software developer, I can definitely feel at times that if you're in the game for long enough, chances are you've worked on something just because you were told to. Put all this thought and effort and time into, and it ended up of something you were proud of, only to have the whole thing put on ice because someone higher up decided to go with another technological suite, or they saw it as a stopgap for an overall company strategy, or just not to play it all together because who knows? The left hand doesn't always know what the right hand is doing. And doing these things, people up top with all these resources, they weren't crafting the master plan that they made it seem like they were doing and just making it up as they go. The CFO says we have to migrate this database to Microsoft. Why? Well, does it gain us anything when the application is in Java? Who knows? They were just talking to somebody out there and got all inspired that Microsoft was going to be the answer and better long term without checking with its own developers who know the platforms in and outs better. This is how the cube gets made. And I think the undercurrents to this film, it could speak to the billionaires of our time making rockets just to send Katy Perry into space for 10 minutes instead of much more deserving people like President of Space over here, Isaac Arthur. You know, they have the resources to make something big and grand, no matter how little sense it might actually make to do it. But here, most of us are at the bottom, working in our little delivery trucks for peanuts at their discretion. Patching up its racist AIs because, well, Elon knows throws so much money at it, he's got to do something with it. He's got to make Grok work somehow. And even if it succeeds where he wants it to go, it spells doom for all of this on the actual hard labor floor. We've got to find our ways out of this cube, my friends. And I'm sure we can if technology is a free resource that can propel us all forward rather than a cog meant to deliver profit and bureaucrocy.
Ben, do you need a hug?
He's been sitting on that one for a couple
weeks. Come here, buddy. Come here.
That was going to be my last exhibit.
I do feel like the defense raises some very valid points there. The movie, and this is a hard one because there are some good points to the film. But at the end of the day, when you look at the basics of it, a film has to deliver a plot that makes some kind of sense, right? And you don't just hand wave and say, well, the point is pointlessness. That's a little bit lazy. You know, that's a hand wave that could have theoretically worked for any film. It works better here than many others, to be fair. But you have a project that's just too big. Right? As you said, it would have more value contained inside it, even being conservative, than the entire city of New York. That's no longer a software project that someone's adding up some bills on or some things like that where it's just kind of rolling. You've got someone's Senate district that's a budget item for them that they've been, presumably lobbying for. There's, at this point in time, that much money attracts people interested. They want to know what's it for. Somebody has to go in front of someone and say, this is what the gigantic 3-mile-high structure we've been building in the desert's for.
Question from the bench.
What's that?
Could it be built into the Earth's core?
Could it be
I always assume that it was.
Yes. That would add cost, but you could build it inside that. If you're willing to use, I don't know, possibly as few as 100 large nuclear devices to excavate the spot, you could then put it in there. That probably would get...
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Thank you, sir.
Mushroom clouds, not always the most subtle objects, especially when used in repetition for construction purposes. And someone's go out there and say, what is this gigantic cube for? And again, why does it need to spray acid? Well,
gotta spray something.
and it's how we get rid of the remains. I don't know. There's a reasoning for it, and someone says, "Well, it's a puzzle. Right? There's no way to solve the puzzle." But we're also told that there is a way to solve the puzzle. So that brings us to Kazan, who's the kind of the odd man out character. And I will give some credit here because there's some fascinating characters in here in terms of how they were acted. The guy trying to do that role had a hard time with that role acting it. It was a hard one to do, but he did okay, right? You got this character who's an idiot savant, basically, as they're saying at the time, and we don't use that much these days because it doesn't fit well, and also because they're not exactly real. His abilities are too exaggerated. And it's just kind of strange. Credulity, why is he there? If it is a prison,
because at the time the movie Rain Man was taking the movie by storm, sir. And we like characters like this.
With some a little while since that came out, but I mean, it's
how
still,
cool is it?
What do you do?
Well, it's cool that like the person you think is going to be the biggest liability ends up being like the one that helps them out the most and
that
gets
is a
out.
nice plot twist. The problem is that he's the only one who survives, so he didn't actually help them at all, did he?
Yeah, they helped him to help himself. But the only reason the rest of them don't die is because they got in their own way, right? Like the cop is like this sort of guy who's like pushing everyone forward and think he's going to just like, if I just, put the squeeze on everybody, I'm going to get out.
He flat out murders two characters.
Yeah. Right. Like everyone's kind of put in this room for a reason. You think going in because you have like that guy who can like knows how to like keep yourself sort of hydrated. We got people who like do our humanity. They give Levin her glasses, for example. Like it seems like there's some sort of plan here. Like if y'all just like work together, you can get out of this thing.
That is
but because of their own humanity, they get in their own way. Sorry.
There is an implied purpose going on here. Someone was selecting these people for a role, and somebody had to go to HR and say, I like to take Kazan there. He's, obviously differently abled and shouldn't be, being put in prison, but let's dump him in there with the psychotic cop and these other people in the murder prison. They just see how that works out. He'll be fine.
We don't know what the psychotic cop's purpose was going to be. Like we first think he's going to be our protagonist. Like he seems like the one who's going to kind of be calm and level-headed and X-ray and see what everyone is thinking. But that clearly is not what's happened. It's great twist.
Yeah, it's again, because M. Night Shyamalan hadn't really been out on the scene much yet at this time, so we had all got exhausted the twist. But they had
another person who took inspiration from here. Maybe I don't know.
and maybe again, not the right kind of inspiration to take, because they take so many twists in here. As they change what it is, they change the plot, they change the numbers around, they make it an impossible puzzle to solve, and they say there's no puzzle to solve at the end at all, and except there is a way out. And Kazan finds the end, and it's a gigantic white thing, which it's an ambiguous ending is what it is. It's like you allowing he's out. We know that. We know he's out. But like it's kind of walking into the light. It's the rest of the story is for you to fill the gaps in. Partially because like you want an ambiguous ending because it can be left ambiguous. But here, if a movie would fail because you get not be made not necessarily as good. Sometimes having a little bit of mystery at the end is good, right? Unsolved things. But if your entire movie would fail because you literally do not have a possible ending, this isn't like Blade Runner where they leave it open at the end. It's like, well, maybe he's an android and maybe he's not. Because
it's more like them riding off to the sunset in The Mummy, except it's just a big bright white. It's like, well, where are they going to get back to Cairo? I want to know what happens after this.
It's too ambiguous because they're not giving us any kind of resolution at all. Even like to go out there with some fridge logic, well, maybe it was X, Y, or Z. We get the idea that it's some prison being built for unknown reasons and purposes, which seems to be left over from the earlier version of the script anyway. But you got a big white light because there's no answer that would have been okay. It might not have been as good to answer it. None of the answers that you could go with are actually going to be a good answer. So the ambiguity is to cover the feeling in the film, and it works. But again, it's still what it is, duct tape.
I still think the idea for this cube is a lot of fun. It's like the way it rotates. They have the math problem. You said it's
time talking about gigantic megastructures that are even bigger than this.
But it's like you said, it was a math problem that couldn't be solved. But like it was conceived by David W. Pravica, I believe, who envisioned it as like I think 132 meters on either side. I don't know. I mean, I would trust your math over what I read, but like it seems like the rooms, if you like have 4.7 meters on one side and multiply it by that, it wouldn't be that gigantic.
I'd say it's a 5 meter cube with an extra foot or so in between, at least. But even if it's just 5 meters, that would be 500 meters wide if it's 1,000, the 3-digit number. Now it's not a Cartesian grid, so that could just be a throwaway. But
no, there's sums of digits from where it started, and then if you add the digit to itself and then perform cyclical subtraction to it, I believe that says where it moves. What? And like one room is outside of it to form the bridge. They say pure math doesn't have any real application.
Math worked for it. I mean, the math might make enough sense, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that big. One of the things is that it moves, right? It does move and change around. It's a huge structure. And again, I love gigantic structures that don't even have to necessarily serve a purpose. So if it's not even selling me on its probability and usefulness, that implies it's not the most useful device in the universe. It is. I mean, it comes down to. The movie itself self-convicts. They built one damn room for the entire movie. They filmed the whole thing inside there.
Isn't that brilliant, though?
Well,
they do so much with a little.
Horror movie.
You got one room, like one set, like how many, that's like so much credit you have to give to these people where it's like they change the colors and just like change the traps in it. And it's just one big set. They use that little bit of craft that they had to their advantage. And it still presents itself as constantly rotating.
Color changes. I guess they were supposed to be 6 colors originally and they left one out. But the cube was supposed to feel claustrophobic, right? But
it does it not? Like you're in each little tiny room at a time. And when you get out of one room, it looks like just like the next one.
Closet, though. It's very small. So it's a bottle episode, right? And I respect that, right? You can do some good bottle episodes, but it also has its weaknesses. So you've got a movie, and the movie is supposed to have some actual genuine strengths, right? In the end, we have a film that's got many good points. Not going to say otherwise. It has to stand on a lot of different merits. The acting is okay. It's not great. The characters are kind of thin and one-dimensional. They get over the top at times. The effects are pretty good for the budget, but they're still not impressive. And the plot is a mystery box train wreck. It relies on hanging a lantern on there being like no point to the story, so that you don't really notice the big dumb object featured in it doesn't serve any purpose, because again, it's not supposed to. I just feel that, taken as a whole, what's the great strength of this film that says, I'm exceptional when it's got so many other structural weaknesses?
Because there's nothing else like it. I don't know any other rooms or any other movies called Cube
that. Well, no, because there are at least 3 other movies called The Cube.
Well, there are sequels to this, but like the only thing I can think of is like it is something that would have come after this that this would have inspired. So at the time, I just remember being floored, and still I don't think there are many films like this one. So you really got to pay homage to the ones that's just like, yeah, we could have done another Marvel, we could have done whatever. No, we're doing something that is so unique to ourselves. And I want to hammer home the cast, because you're right, that is one of the great things about this. David Hewlett, Rodney McKay, Nicole DeBoer, Esri Dax in this film. The other people are okay, but as a fan of both of those shows, I think it's really interesting seeing them here, because they're clearly not playing the same characters they do in those shows. And it's a real shame that once most people land a TV role, essentially when they live in our homes, that we can think of them as that and nothing else after. But they could and should be allowed to be other characters. Drawing lines from Worth and Levin to McKay and Dax makes me think of all the possible different characters along that trajectory that they likely could have played, and even outside of those paths. So that makes watching Cube even all the more fun. Mr. Arthur?
Well, I suppose I should wrap my own arguments up on this. Again, it's got its merits, but...
You blew past all mine. It's going to be a short case.
To me, the standing merit that everyone talks about this film is that great mystery. But again, maybe because at the time, and you do have to judge a film based to some degree on when was it actually made. Tolkien can seem kind of pat if you read a lot of the fantasy since then, because they all copy him. But in a post M. Night Shyamalan Twistland, in a world in which we've had Lost hit us over and over again with all the mystery boxes that don't go anywhere, the film doesn't feel as good on a rewatch. But
well, objection. That would be saying like any black and white color film doesn't seem good, because now we have color. So who's going to want to watch that in comparison?
But at the same time, it does also help to highlight the weaknesses that are there. You see those tropes, the cliches, and they're in there. This is a film that's so enigmatic that even the credit roll was in confusion. I mean, what do we get out of it? When all is said and done, you have a big mystery box, and it's literally a big mystery box. And the final scene leaves us with the big burning question: why did I just watch people argue in a box for 90 minutes? What was it?
I had the same thoughts when I watch any presidential debate.
Maybe people would tune in more if it had acid, I suppose.
Maybe they would. I think they would.
I would definitely watch if they gave me acid.
No, Ryan.
Fundamentally, Your Honor, members of the jury, at the end of this film, this big mystery box with no point, what we have is one man walks toward the light, and so does my patience. The final scene is just...
Unfortunately, it was the end.
The film has no point, and thus it can't be considered to be a great film. And that the offense rests.
Thank you, Mr. Arthur. Mr. Haslar, you're free to exhibit any further argumentation.
I think I did in my rebuttals fairly well. Hopefully the jury enjoyed them. So I would like to close with this thought about how much I love science fiction. Those films that answer the big question of what if, where we explore the implications and alternatives, where if we're going in a positive direction or a negative one. And I love horror. exploring tales that are cautionary and blowing up the consequences of that bad choice to a point where they're terrifying. And these two concepts, sci-fi and horror, ought to go hand in hand with one another. The question of if we're going in a bad direction, how terrifying can it be? But so often it doesn't. There's a number of great sci-fi horror films out there. Sure, I'm not discounting them. Alien, Event Horizon, The Thing. But more often than not, aren't they usually just a tad disappointing? Where if you've seen one splice, you've seen them all? Which is why we've really got to push forward and celebrate the films that ground bake and do all that they can with them, or do the most that they can with what they have. Your sci-fi horrors that are actually about something beneath it all. And this is about something beneath it all. It's about the Kafka-esque horror in which we find ourselves. And are things going to get better with this, or are they going to get worse?
Ben, did you know that the director of Splice is the director of Cube?
I did not know that.
Got him, Your Honor.
Self-inspired.
Whose side are you on, Your Honor? You're supposed to be impartial.
Okay. So are you resting on that, Mr. Haslar?
Oh, I feel like I gotta make something else up on the spot now, but no, yes, I will rest on that.
Okay. All sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Arthur, you may begin.
Well, I feel like we made our case pretty strongly here, but the defense has certainly helped. As he points out, you have some other very good sci-fi films like The Thing and Event Horizon, and something critical about both of those films is they actually made sense. In The Thing, you've got an alien invader who's woken up and is able to take control of people and pretend to be them. So all the paranoia, all the infighting and mistrust that we see in both The Cube and The Thing, it makes perfect sense there. They got a shapeshifter amongst them, and that shapeshifter has a very clear and reasonable goal. Its motivation is to take over the Earth and kill all of them. Makes sense. In Event Horizon, which is literally a story about demons from hell taking over people, we still have a completely logical point. They are out there. They built this gigantic ship for untold billions of dollars because they wanted to make a ship that could go from point A to point B faster. They just didn't realize it detoured through hell. And when they find out, they act logically, insanely to get out of there. You know, that's what happened to these things. These are horror films that are sci-fi films that made sense. The point makes sense. Here we have a gigantic cube that was built to spray acid at people. It just doesn't make much sense. And if it doesn't make sense, I suggest we send it where it belongs. Send it on the Event Horizon straight back to hell.
Mr. Haslar, you may present your closing argument.
I trust the jury to do the right thing, and since we've had a lot of fun today, I'm going to leave you guys with Big Ben's top 5 of shapes that they could have used for the sequel instead of the hypercube.
You stole my
Number 1. It's my bit now.
Oh, my verdict. Damn it, Ben.
Ben, I can't hold them back forever. You got to read fast.
Number 1, the dodecahedron. You know those D12-looking shapes? D&D nerds will watch it for the poster alone. The twist is, each face is a pentagon, and each pentagon hides a puzzle. Solve it wrong, the room itself rolls for initiative, and the traps trigger on a critical fail. Number 2, line. Potential tag for the poster. What was meant to be the shortest distance may be their longest journey. Ooh. Number 3, trapezium of doom, which is an actual mathematical thing. Potential prefix, Indiana Jones and the. Note to call Disney to see how much the rights cost. Number 4, Taurus. The good old square root of x squared plus y squared, then subtract r, square that, and add z squared. Turns out the more common name for it is donut. A cop character is less amused about the irony of ending his life in a giant killer donut. Final shot is the mathematician yelling, "It's a Taurus! A Taurus!" and crumbling in the mathematical irony of it all. And we get like maybe, 2 chuckles from the audience. And number 5, the Penrose Triangle. Honestly, just saw the shape on Google, looked cool. I'll leave it to the people in the set building to figure out the details. I thank you.
Thank you all. Members of the jury, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Maynard Bangs, and Mr. Down the Hatch, Ryan Luis Rodriguez, you've all heard the spooky facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of the sin of being a bad movie, and will therefore be condemned to the depths of movie hell. The Scaretaker will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Right this way. You know, I can always tell a number is prime if it includes free shipping!
Oh.
I get it.
I mean, that's something like the bailiff would say that, though. The Scaretaker usually says something a little more.
I am the bailiff!
I should get in the room then.
All right, folks. Cube, or as it's known, a Frinkahedron. Thank you. Schlenzo, you were notoriously quiet. What are you thinking?
I was too busy laughing at all the jokes. This was a really fun one.
It was.
Okay. The watchword is Kafka-esque, right? And I guess a brief primer for people who might not be too familiar with it. It is this idea of confusing rules that you're never quite made aware of, right? It would be like if you're going to the DMV and they tell you need this form, but the only way you can get that form is by filling out another form, but you can't get that form because that office is closed. Stuff like that. It's usually superimposed upon bureaucracy, as Ben was pointing out. The thing is, I can see if you squint how Cube is Kafka-esque, right? Because they don't quite understand what's going on, but a big part of being Kafka-esque is you don't even have the opportunity to understand what's going on. And this clearly you can't
turn into a giant cockroach.
That too. But like you have the opportunity to figure this out. But granted, it takes like a savant and everything and like why they're there. So I appreciate that Ben wants to look deeper into this and what it means. I appreciate how pointing out like this movie is unique. Like it's definitely something you, at the time in 97, you haven't seen anything quite like this, probably, at least nothing this mainstream, I would suppose. But when we get to Isaac's argument, ultimately it does not make sense. There is just not enough of a footing in reality. And as you recall, we tend to judge movies that waste our time pretty harshly. That was basically why Smile 2 got found guilty. We didn't find Beau is Afraid not guilty, even though it suffered the same problem of not giving you a toehold in reality. So it does raise the question, like, well, what is the point? Why are these people specifically in here? And it's seemingly just so they have interesting things to say, like, oh, I designed the outer shell. It's like, how do you really know if it's really as like broken apart and distributed as you're saying? So I found that stuff just to be really hard to buy into, and I was curious in so much as I'm forced to watch the movie. I want to see what happens. I want some explanation. And when we're talking about ambiguity, when it comes to ambiguity, I think Isaac had the better of that argument. It's like it's about the options that are presented to you, like going back to Blade Runner, like is he a replicant, is he not a replicant? You don't really have any options with the cube, like we don't like why were they there? And now if there's another script where it turns out they're in hell, that's kind of the direction that's the vibe I was getting from the movie. I'm thinking like is going to be like a mildly supernatural twist here, but no, it turns out that the acid sprayer lobby is very powerful in Washington, and they were able to get their hoses in the Cube project for some reason, So right now I'm definitely feel myself leaning towards guilty just because the movie just doesn't give you enough to hold on to, and you can read as deeply into it as you want, but you could do that with almost any movie, like if you want to go that far. So based on what we were seeing in the case, I'm just not particularly impressed today, but I'll let someone else say something.
Smiling Ryan.
This is a gentleman's 6 for me, but without the heart.
Ooh.
Like I really appreciate what it's going for. I love the fact that it's basically a movie set inside the Hellraiser box.
Yeah.
And I love that it was co-written by the creator of Orphan Black, Graham Manson, who's one of my favorite writers working in television today. And the thing that really stuck with me is that I agreed with both Isaac and Ben in the ambiguity department, and I kind of pieced it together as it being familiar to Memento, where it's a geometry problem masquerading as a pulpy genre thriller, except at the end of Memento, you're like, I get it. And then at the end of Cube, you're like, huh? What? Okay. And I don't know. I mean, I did not have a problem with it. Seeing the guy get carved into cubes, just like Resident Evil, that's the only part of that movie that I actually enjoy. So you shouldn't have brought that up, Isaac.
Cheese grater.
But I think I don't know how I'm leaning. Yeah. I'm 1 foot in one department and 1 foot in the other. So Rob, why don't you tell us how you feel?
I agree
with Ben that this is a very original idea. There's not other movies like it. And I really appreciate its low budget and its modest set. I mean, that's making the most with what you have. I think that is really great and pretty ingenious. I like the concept. I'm not bothered by the big why. I don't really care why we're here. I actually wish the movie gave us less. You know, I wish that the guy didn't say he had anything to do with building it. And he could still be wrong. They still could be in hell. I mean, he walks out into light. Now, if he walked out into like Chicago, urban Chicago, I'd be like, what the heck? But he moves into some white light and you're like, okay, so maybe they were in hell and he moved to heaven, or maybe it's a very bright desert. You know, like I don't, you know, when she falls into some big blackness, you know? So I just don't know that we're so much in reality as we seem to think we are. But the point to me is I don't care why. The point of the movie is to see these people move through this incredibly dangerous structure, which is a bit of a puzzle. And the puzzle part is not something I can really figure out. I'm not sure any viewer necessarily can. But again, I also don't care. They seem to have it figured out, and I trust in them, and I'm interested in seeing if they're right or if they're going to step into this room and get cut up like a cheese grater. So to me, it's very much a horror movie. Like, yeah, step in there and die. That'll be really cool. My big problem with it, and we didn't hear it from the prosecution, but it was lightly touched on, is that I don't really care for who survives at the end. To me, Kazan was mostly creating dangerous situations for everyone else most of the movie, and I actually kind of expected the shoe to drop where he was some sort of a bad guy, and he was pretending the entire time. And was sabotaging them because, you know, he clearly makes noise intentionally when the cop, you know, is in the room. He seems to twist that handle too. So if that was actually an accident, you're like, dude, come on. You know, the one I wanted to see survive was Dax. I don't know the actress's name, but
Nicole DeBoer.
Ooh, Nicole DeBoer.
Gonna make a Trekkie out of you yet, Maynard?
Maybe only those final seasons, perhaps. Though
one final season.
I heard 3, only one Schlenzo. I'm out. But the point is, I mean, she was the one who was solving all the math problems most of the time and really doing like the vast majority of the work. And we never found out what was really bad about her. So I just don't think she deserved her fate. I was kind of like, no, if there was anyone I was rooting for and attached to and relating to, it was her. And to have her not survive was a real bummer. I can't really say that the movie's bad for making it a bummer, but I would just say the wrong person survived. But otherwise, I mean, the design, I love the set pieces a lot. Like I said, I think it's really kind of clever. And the idea is just very unique. And it's not that long, right? So it's right around the
95 minutes.
Yeah, but yeah. It does. Do you think this movie wants you asking big questions, though?
Yes.
I think it does.
I don't think it does.
I think it does.
I think it wants me to ask what's in the next room.
No,
or safety.
I don't think so. I think the movie thinks it's very clever, and I think it falls short. You're going to sit here and say you don't think this movie thinks it's clever?
What does it think it's doing that's clever? I mean, it made a big math problem that's over my head, but I think it's over almost anyone else's head unless they have time to sit with a pad and jot it out.
Do you think it wants to raise these kind of bigger questions that Ben is bringing up, you know, about like this being Kafkaesque, about it being
No, I don't see the bureaucracy in it really.
You don't think that's what it was going for?
No, I don't see this as being very bureaucratic. And the whole idea is it just runs by itself. I agree with Isaac there. That's preposterous. Someone's running this. That's why I thought it was going to be Kazan the whole time, because somebody is running this. Somebody's watching this. Somebody's enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very poorly executed point is where I'm going for, you see. Now.
But again, the why of it doesn't bother me. I like the
what. I know it doesn't bother you.
Cube prison that cuts people up.
But it's not the intent. That's not the intention of the movie. And if we're weighing intentionality, I think it definitely comes up short. You can weigh the
intentionality, but to me, the intentionality of what I saw on the screen was, here's a crazy little cube maze, and we're going to cut people up. What's in the next room?
That's not what it was. I'm glad you enjoyed it for that reason, though.
Well, let's start locking it in. Schlenzo, you sound like you've got your mind made up.
This is a very easy not guilty for me. No, I'm kidding. I'm going guilty today. There's just not enough meat on the bone.
Oh, there was plenty of meat on some of those bones.
Oh, God.
All right, Ryan, what are you going with?
Well, we're having such a great Hell on Reels season, especially compared to last year where we had 6 duds and like 1 good one, and then kept going even past Halloween. Don't even try to explain that one to me. That's the mystery I want solved. God damn it.
Halloween goes
no,
from
but
September
I
to November.
enjoyed this movie enough. I'm gonna go not guilty.
All right, up to me. I liked Isaac's points, although the way I was feeling, I think Isaac likes this movie a little more than he's letting on. Maybe just because it is this big mega structure. Is it impossible? Maybe. It could still exist in hell. I am not eliminating the possibility that this could exist in some other dimension, because it would be so impossible to build in the real world that I just don't see how it could be. But to me, the point of the movie was the what? Want to see these 6 people wander through this maze that might cut the crap out of them? Yeah, sure, totally. Like, that sounds fun. The ending could use some work. It's not a perfect movie. I think I agree with Ryan's like 6, but to me, it's original. It did plenty with its budget, and I could see watching it again. In fact, I want to watch all the sequels, even apparently the bad Japanese remake. So I'm going not guilty. So let's get out there and tell that very, very handsome. He's so handsome, that judge.
Wow, that's a little condescending, but okay.
What? It was genuine.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, you very handsome honor. In the case of The People versus Cube, we find the defendant not guilty of being a bad movie.
One is spared.
The verdict is so rendered. Cube is hereby free to go until it must return to court for a head-to-head against another scientific horror film, Cylinder. Court is adjourned.
It rotates.
Oh, hey there. This is Arthur Looney there. You know, Cube was a Canadian movie, and I'm a Canadian guy who's trapped in a cube. Yes.
That tracks.
Yeah, not too bad, eh? Get me out of here, please. Isaac, Arthur, can we get your thoughts on the jury's verdict? How do you feel?
Turn Swedish there all of a sudden.
Hermel.
Well, I will say, obviously, we're always disappointed when a bad movie gets away, but this one was a very borderline case. It did have a lot of things going for it, so maybe it could be redone, remade better. So I've been remade at least once better, and hopefully lead to many more good films as opposed to somewhat lacking ones in terms of plot resolution.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much there, eh? Let's see. Who is it? That's a big Ben Haslar. Get over here, eh? How you feeling about today's verdict? You won this one. It was a big one, eh?
Back to Sweden.
I don't feel like I deserved it. No, Isaac Arthur made mincemeat out of me, much like some of those rooms in the Cube did. I do think overall it was just meant to be like, hey, we're trying to go from room to room, and what's the danger in it? And I think that overall Kafka-esque thing was just kind of a, they pitched hell, they pitched whatever, like, let's go with that. And it doesn't destroy things enough, which makes it problematic maybe, but not bad. So justice was served today, but Isaac definitely got the better of me in court. Always a pleasure to spar with you and have you grace our hall, sir.
All right, that's all we get from the courthouse today. Oh dear, the acid hose. It's been activated. It gets activated on Ben's goodwill. Let's go back to the studio for post.
I knew it. That's why I can't get dates.
The acid hose. You can't slip into their DMs, Ben.
Yeah, we got a lot of acid hose references today. I'm feeling pretty good about this.
Fun case. This was an interesting movie that I had never seen before. Isaac, if you're not a judge character anymore, do you think this movie's bad?
No, I would say it suffers mostly from it's trying to do 2 separate things at once. It's a good popcorn horror movie, but it's also trying to be deep, and that's where it does mess up. And I had it in my notes, but I didn't want to say it because I was worried someone was going to seize on it. But all I got brought up was that I thought it'd been so much better if it turned out Kazan was the bad guy.
Right, yeah. That's what I expected.
Otherwise... Aaron and I were watching it together, and we're like, there's something up with that guy, and then it was nothing.
It occurred to me, too, but I was like, that wouldn't help my case, so I'm not going to bring it up.
I was making fun of it in other horror movies, and my roommate at the time, and as I was off at the Air Force Base and right past the time, says, you need to just watch this on, we got a VHS. Like, watch this by yourself in the dark in the right frame of mind. And it kind of taught me, like, don't go into movies with the aim of not enjoying them. and it was pretty good. I mean, it's got its weaknesses, absolutely, but yeah, especially I was expecting to be bad on the rewatch, and I was reminded about the bits I kind of enjoyed. And I know it's awful, but the mincemeat scene is just iconic. So
Yeah. I think it just need to give us a smidge more to work with. It's just like,
I said
why are
give
they
us
all there?
less.
I think it's
Nah.
because they
Please
go
more.
for this is a deep film, but then but it's also going for the horror movie, and then the sequels really lean into the cheap film thing as opposed to being deep. So
No, they get out of one cube, and then like the final shot is, oh no, this cube was an even smaller cube of an even larger cube.
Yeah, that whole cube is one room in another giant cube.
Planet is a cube.
Man, what if God was a cube? Wouldn't that be crazy?
Well, you can make that
Whoa.
case. Actually, you got that Trinity thing. You'd be each of one of the Cartesian dimensions. So that's actually been raised as an interesting Trinity kind of explanation.
Okay, Cartesian.
Well,
I'm
because
still
you
gonna
always
look at God
know
as a
it's
cube.
type
You
of
can't
rug,
change my
if I'm
mind.
not mistaken.
You like
Point is,
coordinates? Say coordinates.
This was a movie with a lot of dimension.
Boo.
Mm.
Get him out of here.
Now, Isaac, what's been keeping you busy lately? What have you been up to?
Well, ironically, one of the things we were discussing was strange
building a cube?
megastructures, what we call a because we can megastructure, which is when we come with one where we think you might build it as an advanced civilization just to prove that you can, and one of those is a cube-shaped planet. So you actually build one of these things under known physics, and it would work.
How does it
Why
work?
you would do this, I don't know, but I did not want to bring that up during the.
Wouldn't gravity and eventual rotation
Oh.
smooth it into a sphere?
Right, but you have to build it using what we call active support, and the trick you use for that is you effectively it's kind of like blowing a hose or a compressor or
suppose.
something to run it, but you have to distribute your weight non-homogeneously. Same trick we use for disc planets or sombrero shaped planets. See the episode Flat Earth Megastructure Workstation. So you can make it not collapse if you want it bad enough.
Your theory
Is
of
the
a
atmosphere
sombrero-shaped
round?
planet intrigues me.
Would the atmosphere be round around these other shaped planets?
Right, the atmosphere gets to be trickier because it would be round around it, or not quite round, but closer to it. And you can do it a lot better with a dodecahedron planet, which someone already brought up, or icosahedron planet. So basically, the closer you get to a sphere, the easier things are. But cube-shaped planet viable, just very impractical.
If you went to the extreme corners, like on the outside, would there be no atmosphere there?
It depends on how thick your atmosphere is and how big the planet is. But the same for like gravity, you have a place where it's sorry to tilt over because it wants to be curved or beveled. So you decide, do I want that there be Dragon's Cliff, or am I gonna smooth it and bevel off the edges? And to answer that question, I suppose it depends on how much of a purist you are when you've decided you really want to build a cube-shaped planet. Which,
Just
Yeah,
ask the
that's my
board,
close
man. The
enough.
board
That's
knows.
my rounded edge, cube-shaped planet. Lay off.
If the Borg can do it, anybody can do it. So,
Those are ships.
So,
What would
Isaac,
Borg
what
do?
has the National Space Society, of which you are president of, been up to?
Oh, well, let's see. We were about to have our Space Settlement Summit down in Florida, and ironically, we also had our ISDC, the International Space Development Conference, there back in July. We rotate them around, so the next one will be in Washington, D.C. But those are all big events for like folks coming around. Of course, we got a magazine at Astra, so I would say that, we put videos out for that too. So, check out the National Space Society's YouTube page too, after mine. But I think mostly we just try to, we work a lot with the UN. We try to promote a lot of stuff with NASA, with the budget changes, new administration, trying to make sure this or that space program is going forward for hopefully practical ends that will get us back on the moon.
Planets.
It's sooner than later, so that it doesn't stop sounding like, well, we'll be back on the moon in 5 more years, promise. We might actually be there this time, so I'm looking forward to the next few years.
The moon's coming to us. Remember
Yes, Moonfall. Oh God, I hate that movie.
It's always falling at us. We just move, right?
I really hate that movie. Ironically, one of the people from the NSS thought that I reminded her of one of the characters in it, and she's like, "Oh, you'll love it."
as long as it's
No.
not the Elon lover, I think you're fine.
It's got to be John Leguizamo.
Well,
You mean
it's
Michael
because
Pena?
the problem with that film is
Oh,
it's got
Michael
like
Pena,
5
you're
plots
right.
wrapped into one. Any 2 of them could have been awesome.
So I'm on the website and I love it because it says our goals, and the first one is defending Earth. Which,
That's a good goal to have.
It's a
Space
good one.
Force.
Planetary defense, and you guys are talking about how asteroids could hit us. Isaac, how alarmed should we be about asteroids hitting the planet? You can be honest with us.
Totally minimally. The actual danger to us, obviously, if the big one comes, you get a good blockbuster movie out of it. But the odds of a big one hitting us in the next century are relatively small. After that, big asteroids, assuming they're like a dwarf planet, scale thing, then they are kind of at a crisis, but it's more because they're going to screw up your metal markets. Because then you have this gigantic, valuable rock that's just showing up in orbit handily. And that's just going to make everybody think, oh, hey, let's go mine that. But that's at least a century off. If one came now, we'd have problems.
Oh, good.
Just hire oil drillers to go up in space and break apart that
Unfortunately, as
asteroid.
we build up our infrastructure in space, that one's a lot more sensitive to smaller asteroids and space debris. So, the solution to the long-term problem of asteroids is built up in space. In the short term, they're more of a threat there. So, it's not a trivial one. It's not a minor one. We get hit by big ones all the time, but they're not civilization in the events most of the time. You get one of those like once every million years, and it's not exactly like on a clock. So it could be next 100 years, or it could be not for another 10,000.
Oh, that's pretty good. How close are we to effective asteroid mining? Is that because that's got to be coming around the corner, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's in terms of being able to do it. We have the technology to make it happen already. It's just that you have only got those two markets. You got the am I dragging metal back home to build stuff in space, or am I bringing back gold? And the problem is that mining an asteroid requires an awful lot of actual practice in zero-G that we just haven't got yet with machinery. You need a little bit better AI too, because even the near-Earth asteroids are too far away to like remote control the thing.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
There's some very good stuff on it, and I got a few episodes on it too. I'd say I'm sure we'll get a pilot project the next decade, but it's hard to say when that will be like an actual profitable thing that involves us going out to the space frontier to go mine things, which would never be like an old coal mine in West Virginia either way. Be like, I'm going to sit on this ship and control robots, but still it could be pioneering.
Cool. So would you say the near term thing you're most excited about is probably us getting back to the moon? Like that's probably going to be the next big thing.
For me, it's kind of seeing what the next. I mean, I don't really want to go back to the moon just to go run a few experiments.
Get more rocks.
I really want to
Play golf.
Yeah, and those rocks were useful, and the golf was actually, ironically enough, useful too. You can load things off all sorts of stuff. But a permanent base, that's what I want to do there. I want a permanent base that they actually manufacture fuel. That's the big one to me. And even if it's not making it useful initially, it's the project you need to make space actually.
To then do it on Mars and everywhere else.
Yeah.
And we have problems here on Earth we've got to solve. Like, Isaac, where is Bigfoot?
Well, actually, he is on the road just to the left of me.
Oh,
he's behind you with a rock.
There's literally a guy with a model just out here on State Road that's got the whole family of Bigfoots on there, and he's very well done too. So.
Well, he might be an interdimensional being, according to ancient astronaut.
No.
Anyway, so Science and Futurism is your YouTube page, so we can check out all of Isaac's videos on all of these interesting topics, which may not be about Bigfoot. But now we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. And since it's Halloween, Hell on Reels, we're looking for a spooky recommendation. So, Isaac, what is a movie that people should see?
The Thing, the original The Thing too, not any remakes with Kurt Russell and others.
What makes it wait, Thing from Another World then from the 50s?
No, sorry,
that's the original.
The not so original, the not the
remake,
not the John Campbell version either. So the one from 1982, I want to say, but with Kurt Russell and
right.
God, I can't remember his name.
Keith David.
I was thinking
Carpenter.
the gentleman.
Are you thinking of the guy from the Warriors? He's in it too.
The older fellow, Winston.
Oh, Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley, yeah, that was the other one. Yes. So, but yeah, John Carpenter was the Thing from the early '80s. Wonderful film, even today, it still holds up.
It
What makes it so great?
I think because in a little bit like The Cube, it's another bottle episode type of film. It's not super high budget. It's all inside. It feels and nearby with one base. It feels claustrophobic. It feels very believable, and you can see yourself where those folks are at. You know, they're not freaking out. They're not being stupid. It's all very rational paranoia, and it just escalates. They just keep turning the temperature up all the way to the end, even though it's set like Antarctica.
There's one guy who's like smoking weed the whole time. He's pretty
Yeah, that
stupid.
too.
I think. Like,
There's always
It's
one.
very believable people living on a base in the middle of Antarctica.
yeah.
Excellent use of flamethrowers.
Yes.
Well, gotta flamethrow something.
Yeah,
I've
justified.
been saying for years.
Big Ben, what is your heckmendation? Heckle-bendation?
As the Hell Unreal season and our list of horror hecko-bendations and our time with Isaac Arthur draws to a close, I have picked a film with a title that wholly represents this trauma, The Sadness, from Taiwan. Filmed in 2021, at the heights of the COVID pandemic, the creators of this film were clearly channeling a lot here and using script writing as their therapy. It's pretty intense and mostly the right ways. It's kind of a zombie picture, but all the infected are still conscious of themselves and can think and reason to an extent. They've just become insanely violent versions of themselves without regard for anything else but satiating their own twisted desires. They run after victims in a similar fashion to the Raver zombies and often get fixated on one victim in particularly, namely the pretty protagonist in particular. It's a very bloody film. The blood is done effectively and viscerally. I wasn't too sure about it when it started out. There was a lot of virus stuff on the news and people were spewing the same kinds of things we would hear during the pandemic about corporations want this, the economy wants that, it's just a measure of control, blah, 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 before the things start escalating across the country very rapidly and people become less and less concerned about the disease and more concerned about satiating their own desires. I hope there's never another pandemic like the one we've had in our lifetime, but if there is, I hope we handle it a little bit better. Spoiler alert, we probably won't.
Oh no, it's gonna be so much worse. The sooner it is, that it'll be worse. Ryan, what is your completely truckless recommendation?
My spooky truck-commendation this week is Joseph Rubin's outstanding 1987 thriller, The Stepfather, played to perfection by the immortal Terry O'Quinn. O'Quinn is Jerry Blake, a serial killer who ingratiates himself into families, gains their trust and respect, and then kills them, only to move on to another family. Things escalate when Jerry starts breaking down, giving away his illusion of steady normalcy, and starts questioning his own identity, if he actually has one anymore. There's a moment near the end where he pauses and says aloud, "Wait a minute, who am I here?" And it's spine-tingling and serves as the thesis statement of the film itself. Despite the fact that it took in less than $3 million at the box office, they made a sequel, again with O'Quinn, and a third in which he didn't appear, and then a late 2000s remake because even slightly memorable slasher films from the 70s and 80s were screaming for remakes. The Stepfather is currently streaming practically everywhere: Amazon Prime, Hoopla, Tubi, and Canopy. Support your local library.
Fantastic.
I'll go here. So my heckmendation today is one truckomended to me by our own Ryan Luis Rodriguez, the direct sequel to my heckmendation last week, or maybe it will be next week. It's hard to say. Time is a big ball of wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff around here.
It's a flat circle.
Sure is.
It's 2004's Seed of Chucky. So I guess you could say this is my Chuckomendation.
No, we're not going to say that. Take it
Okay.
again.
Sure. Chucky and his brutal bride Tiffany are back, resurrected by their titular seed, and the trio hit Hollywood to try to infuse their souls into hip-hop icon Redman and actress Jennifer Tilly, who each play themselves. Tiffany, who is also voiced by Tilly, insists she has the voice of an angel. A lot of the film is dedicated to lightheartedly ribbing Tilly and her career, but it still manages to sneak in some murders and a few digs at Martha Stewart for old time's sake. The best word to describe this film is, I think, unhinged, although Ryan Luis Rodriguez would add, and amazing, which I'm liable to second. If the prior entries in this series were horror comedies, this is a comedy horror, managing to reference Psycho, Glenn or Glenda, and I think subtly a bit of Sleepaway Camp for good measure. And speaking of camp, it even features an appearance by none other than John Waters, who seems to fit right in with the madness. Frankly, this film has a little something for everyone, including the voice of Billy Boyd from those Elf movies Ben is so fond of. If you want to get a quick peep at Tiffany the Doll's plastic doll tits, and I'm sure you do, Schlenzo, Seed of Chucky is currently streaming on Peacock!
You also see Chucky masturbating, but I wasn't
Yep.
going to
Yeah,
add that
there's
part.
a-
Oh, wait,
a
I just
lot
did.
of-
Shit.
Oh, gee,
Unhinged.
It's a family show.
It was.
Yeah.
Schlenzer, why don't you send us on
So
home
my
with something
innocence
family
died when I
wholesome.
saw that.
Yes, it's something like that.
My friends, my dear friends, you're so lucky to have me in your life. You see, I have plumbed the depths of Tubi to bring you something fitting to be plumbed from the depths of Tubi. Guest of Evil 2023. I have no idea where to begin with this, so let's just start broadly. It's an animated film that's animated via paper cutouts like South Park and features an array of cleverly designed monsters. There's gore and some of it is gruesome.
Al?
Yeah, but what it's really about is a monster squatting in another monster's apartment. The characters being monsters is seemingly incidental to the actual plot of the story. It's also like in some weird post-apocalyptic future. It's absolutely strange. So, of course, though, we watch these kinds of movies because the medium is the message. And it's very easy to respect the hard work that the seemingly one-man show Frank Sodal put into this bizarre yet compelling feature. Again, it's on Tubi. I guess this is your warning, though. It is weird.
Tubi has a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it does. I don't know if this is one of them, but yes.
Yeah. They could have called it Monster Squad.
I mean, they could have done a lot of things.
This
I
sounds
don't
like
think
Mad
that-
God to me, except with paper cutouts.
No, I mean it is a
No,
cohesive
Mad God's
story
genius.
going all the way through, you know. But it's just so weird. It's really the only way. Like you gotta.
Dylan,
watch
you
the
sold
first
me.
15 minutes.
Let it
Okay.
go.
All right. Okay,
You've got,
I'm good.
You've got a new fan, and you can check it out on Tubi. And speaking of guests of evil, we want to thank
Aw, no.
Isaac Arthur for joining us. Thank you so much, Isaac.
Always glad to be on.
We'll be sorry to see you go. We'll also be sorry to see Hell on Reels go. Oh no, but I'm going to keep recommending horror movies anyway. I've got a lot more Chuck-commendations to get through.
Oh no.
I know. And hopefully we'll have Isaac back too for another movie about megastructures. Are there any left?
Is it Megalopolis about Mega?
Oh no, that's actually
No,
a mega structure.
Megalopolis
Oh.
is not about
There's
Mega.
Hypercube.
Had Mega right in it.
It's about an element called Megalon.
Elysium, I suppose.
Ooh,
Ooh,
I-
Elysium.
What?
was
Godzilla versus
interesting.
Megalon.
Oh, Elysium is a Halo. Yeah.
Oh, I
Wait,
like
they
it.
made a Halo movie by now, right? Maybe we can do
TV
that.
show.
Stanford Taurus, yeah.
Oh, you're right. It is a big ring. We could do the ring. All right, Isaac, we're going to have you back and we're going to do the ring. And we hope everyone else joins us then as well as the Reels of Justice, Hell on Reels, keeps burning.
Count it.
Laser hose.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.